Good evening to all of you, and thank you for joining on Sunday afternoon for this session. I hope that all of you are keeping safe and following all the norms for COVID. And I think in these times, most important aspect, apart from your career, of course, is to make sure that you're all safe and your near and dear people are safe. So what we're going to do is first, I want to present one slide before I introduce the panel and get into the points to say so. During this call, at any point of time, you have any question, please put it in the chat because that's the only way we can interact with each other. Feel free to ask as many questions. We are here to help you out. So ask as many questions as possible. Please put it on the chat window. Our team in the backend would look at those questions and relevant panel would keep answering those questions. While we have earmarked some time for Q&A, feel free to ask those questions because you asking questions is the only way in which we can interact and help you at this point of time. This slide, I want you to focus for a minute, and I wanted to explain to you why we are here. Sorry. Yeah. Now, when I look at placement trends of last 4 or 5 years period of time for any average institute, when I say average institute, I'm not taking the top 20, 25 institutes in India. I'm probably referring to the 26th institute to the 400th institute to say so. So the tier 2 colleges, upper tier 2 and mid tier 2 and so on and so forth to say so. If I look at the placement analysis of the finance students, right, one would find that probably 55% of the placements for the finance students actually happen in the banking and the NBFC sector. Another 5% odd happens in insurance, another 15% happens in equity research, etc. So therefore, what we are covering today probably covers about 75 to 80% of the likely placement that you're going to have this year as well, because that's the trend for last 4 or 5 years. So therefore, this presentation is about you, about your placements and about your career. So feel free to ask as many questions. It's not so much about us, it is about you. So therefore, feel free to ask your questions. I think that's very important that you ask your questions. We have the Zoom call full with all 100% occupancy. So now we are live on YouTube. And so therefore, the students who are joining us just now, you would be diverted to the YouTube live. Now, I want to just share that the panel that we have today, probably a cumulative 90 to 95 years of finance / NBFC / banking experience / equity research experience that we bring in, and therefore make sure that you leverage our presence over here. 100-year experience coming together to you is what we are going to bring today. To introduce myself, I worked for about 20 years in Piramal Group. I was the CEO of financial services retail business. Prior to that, I was the CHRO at the Piramal Group. I started Van's group of companies 3 years back. YUGMA is, the B School platform that we have is part of Van Skilling. I have been associated with the B Schools for about 18 years. I'm on board of 5 or 6 B Schools. Had an opportunity to interact and mentor at least 15,000 MBAs in last so many years. And every time I interact, there's a lot of learning, and that's what gives me pleasure. And that's in some ways origin of YUGMA, where we basically said that whatever approach we are doing individually, can we just put it together in form of a platform and have structured conversations. I'm honored to have Satish Mehta. Satish Mehta, Satish, you want to wave your hand? Yes. Yeah. Satish Mehta is founder and CEO of Athena Advisor. He's a chartered accountant with about 4 decades of experience. One of the top professional in the world of NBFCs, was with HDFC, followed by which he was MD and CEO of Sibyl in India, and is associated with several big names in an advisory capacity, including Aditya Birla Finance, Piramal, World Bank, and so on and so forth. Impeccable experience of both mortgages as well as mortgages as in NBFCs, as well as working with the credit bureaus, not just in India, but multiple countries across the globe. Yeah. And Satish has a lot of passion for teaching and talking to youngsters. He's associated with a university in Gujarat and has created several e-learning modules for the students to benefit them and understand deeper understanding of banking, financial, and NBFC sector. So welcome, Satish.
Thank you.
We have Shalat Jain with us, who is going to join us in a couple of minutes from now. Shalat Jain is an IM Lucknow pass out with about 12, 13 years of work experience. He has worked in companies like Larsen and Toubro and now works in Piramal Enterprise. A through and through corporate finance person who understands merger acquisition, valuations, financial modeling, etc., etc. Has been associated with B schools for about 5 years now, mentoring them and teaching them. Yeah, welcome, Shalat. We have Sejraj with us. Sejraj probably has about 15 years of work experience in the world of equity research and financial analysis, etc. For those of you, if you can just Google his name, you would find a lot of his reports getting covered in the financial journals and some of the financial media houses, etc., etc. One of the rare, experienced analysts who works basic on a lot of fundamentals and also a lot of macro news, if I can say so. Yeah. He specializes in the areas of equity research. And, at some point of time, he has actually spent a lot of his time teaching equity research in several of the B schools and comes with that experience as well. Whenever I meet him or whenever I talk to him, I ask him what happens to stock markets next week. Yeah. And he smiles and say, I wish I knew. The reality is that one of the balanced, equity research expert who actually not just looks at a stock price, if I can say so, but looks at the entire story. So all of us are here to answer some of your questions and share with you some of the experience that we have. Again, I repeat, any questions that you have, feel free to please ask us questions on the chat window, and we'll be very happy to answer as many questions as possible. Before I invite Satish Mehta to share, his experience and his advice to all of you on making a career in the banking and the NBFC sector, I wanted to just give you a very high-level view of what are some of the jobs that you can get into banking and NBFC, to say so. And I'll be very candid through my presentation because I think it's very important that a realistic picture is given to all of you rather than giving you a theoretical picture of what we are what you're likely to land up into. Whether you specialize in finance or marketing, okay, the reality is some of you are likely to land up into a banking and NBFC on the sales side, and that's how the nature of jobs are. Sales does not mean you go door to door. Sales does not mean it's a bad job. All I'm trying to bring into your picture is you may have specialized in finance. You may have, some of you have done, some other certifications in finance, but in the campus interview, the reality is some of you would get into customer acquisition and relationship. So if I have to broadly tell you that what are the various job roles that you have, I will divide that into three clusters, if I can say so. Cluster number one is sales, business development, wealth management, equivalent of that, which means either a geography is given to you, or a product category is given to you, or a cohort of customers is given to you, right? High net worth individuals, or government employees, or college teachers or doctors, that kind of cohort, or geography is given to you, Bombay, western suburbs, these three suburbs, or a product is given to you, savings accounts, or home loans, or any one of those combinations, to say so, for you to run, manage a team and get sales out of it, which means you need to have a deep understanding of customer, ability to communicate to customer, and so on and so forth. One different thing in financial services compared to FMCG, etc., and sales, here the product keeps varying. There is a bit of customization of the product, and it's a very concept selling. And therefore, whether you are a marketing specialist or finance specialist, having basic understanding of finance is a must have, because you are selling a product which has got some intricacies of finance into that. Yeah. I don't know, my voice is echoing. Yeah. So I think the first cluster of jobs would be in the sales job. And the hard reality and pardon me for being blunt on it, if there are 100 jobs which come in a campus, probably about, as I mentioned to you, 60 jobs would be in the banking sector and the NBFC sector. Out of these 60 jobs, probably about 40 of the jobs would be in the sales, business development, wealth management. Yeah. And as I said, it's an exciting career. There are enough people who have made wonderful career and who have also moved from one function to another over a period of time. But my duty to bring that into forefront, that you would have many of you landing up into the sales jobs. The second cluster is probably around financial analysis, credit and operations. I'm using it in the same breath, which is essentially once the sales process is done and the lead comes in, how do you use various financial parameters, your understanding of the customer, the finances of the customer, certain ratios in case of SMEs and other organizations, to figure out whether the customer has an ability to pay money back or not, does he have an intention to pay money or not, or in other words, the whole credit appraisal process. I think that's the second cluster of the job. Obviously, Satish has put in 2 decades of that, and I'm sure during his conversation he's going to spend more time on that. The third cluster, I would club it as technology/data analytics. Okay. What I mean to say is today, sales is driven through technology. Customer segmentation happens through technology. It is business analytics and systems which are driving, slicing and dicing of information to adapt to a customer and serve to a customer. So the third set of role available for the finance students is basically the data analytics role, the ERP implementation role, CRM role, etc., where the data is sliced and diced in different fashion to make sure that your hit rate is much higher, to say so. I think these are the top 3 clusters which are available in the whole banking and NBFC sector. This is about retail banking. Retail banking, simplistically for all of us, is retail banking and NBFC for all of us in retail is products that you and I deal on a daily basis. Could be a home loan, could be a personal loan, could be a credit card, could be a savings account, could be buying of insurance, mutual funds, so on and so forth. It's a B2C marketing wherein the customer is a consumer like us, any one of us, and the bank is trying to sell the products. And most of the jobs are available in retail NBFC and retail banking, and that has been the trend. Again, I repeat, any questions, please feel free to ask. I have one more slide before I hand over to Satish. The second set of jobs, again, it's minority in nature. Probably 3-4% of the jobs actually come into this, what we call as corporate banking, commercial banking, or wholesale banking. Whenever I use the word banking, from a job market perspective, NBFCs and banks are similar. While there's a technical difference, but from a job market perspective, both are similar. Now here we are basically saying B2B, which means you are appraising, you are analyzing, you are selling products to a corporate or an SME, to say so. So the nature of the products differ. The kind of parameters that you look for, credit appraisal would be very different. The quantity of loans and quantity of money would be very different. The cycle time would be different. The intensity of analysis would be different. Lot of finance students may want to aspire to get into corporate banking and wholesale banking, commercial banking, or B2B banking as we call it. But the reality is 4 to 5% of the jobs are actually over here. The intensity of the jobs are much higher. Even if one gets a sales job in wholesale banking, the selling is very conceptual and very technical sales, because your customer here is the treasury head, CFO, etc., CEO of a company, and therefore the product has to be really well understood. So a lot of bright finance students, chartered accountants, ICWAs, etc., who land up into an NBFC and banking sector do a fantastic job as salespeople because they understand finance quite well, and becomes much easier for us to sell to those set of people to sell. So the difference is retail is B2C and wholesale is B2B, to say so. Now I invite Satish to say that while I have given an overview of NBFC and banking and 60% of the jobs being there, each one of you, 100 plus, I don't know, on YouTube probably another 50 of you must be there. 150 of you on this call probably would want to understand from Satish, how do we get there? So Satish, request you to share your views on the opportunities which are available in NBFC, etc., And with your vast experience of mentoring hundreds of students, both as a professional as well as a person interested in academics, what is your advice to these set of students, and how do they get there? Over to you, Satish.
Thank you, Srini. Thank you for the introduction, and good afternoon, everybody. I'd like to start, of course, with what Srini asked all of you all. I hope all of you are safe and be responsible to yourselves and your families, and take care. These are difficult times from a health perspective also. Uh, so Srini's introduction was, I think, a very good platform for me to start talking about what I wanted to say in the next 10, 15 minutes or so. And as he said, the financial services sector or the financial sector, be it banks, NBFCs, whatever, is a very vast opportunity for all of you. Can we say that these are not the best of times? I would say that these are good times to invest in yourselves and in your careers as you all head towards looking for jobs or starting your jobs in the next 6, 10, 12 months. Yes, there is a pandemic and there was a lot of, stories about job layoffs and all, but I don't think the medium to long term is something you should worry about. You should keep your head down and keep focusing on developing yourself. Now, as Srini said, there are different kinds of jobs, and I can divide them into two categories. One is the traditional one, sales, acquisition of CASA accounts, customers, acquisition of loans, acquisition of credit card customers, and the traditional method of going and acquiring them using some level of technology, of course, now. Then you have the appraisal part, the credit appraisal, the property appraisal if you're doing a mortgage finance loan. And all that requires a different level of interest and skill. Interest because you must want to be analytical and, have the capacity to see what you're seeing in a manner that enables your decision-making process. And of course, then there is the recovery and all that piece. So that is the traditional. But I think I want to concentrate on talking about 2 or 3 areas which now have taken on huge amount of importance. And I'm going to use words. Technology, of course. There is artificial intelligence, machine learning, big data, credit scoring, and all these words which come under analyticals, technology, and all that. And that, to me, manifests itself in the fintechs that are coming up. It manifests itself in the way companies and banks and NBFC are looking at to do their business. You see a lot of companies now announcing that they're doing paperless, contactless financial services, whether it's a loan, whether it's a credit card, or whether it's bank account opening, which of course had happened long ago. And I think that is the most exciting opportunity for each one of you. Don't look for the negatives, look for the positives. And I think there are 2 things which you need to worry about here. One is skilling yourselves in different ways. One obvious way to do it is at this stage for you to do your summer internships, do maybe a second summer internship, and gain meaningful experience in what you're learning in your classroom also. The second thing, which I think is extremely important, is to go and get yourself educated, knowledgeable, and learned on certain skill sets which are in a particular domain. Now, whether that domain is on selling, whether it's on mortgage finance, whether it's on credit cards, whether it's on car loans, or whether it's on wealth management, you need to get yourself skilled properly. Now, what does the word properly mean here? It means very simply some level of certification or some level of knowledge which then holds you in good stead, not only in your job, but makes you job ready, makes you employable. Because there will be thousands and thousands of people out there looking for the jobs that you will be looking for. Not only just MBAs like you, but you'll also have chartered accountants possibly looking for those kind of jobs. So you need to make that difference, and you have to invest in yourselves. And that investment, like I said, one is to develop your technical skills, certification, doing courses which are appropriate and which make meaningful sense in terms of your job employability, and more importantly, on the job itself. The second thing, which I think is extremely important, is your soft skills. You have to invest in developing your soft skills. And that is a challenge sometimes, because what happens is that you feel that I know soft skills, I don't need to be trained. And you're right, it's difficult to train people, It has to come through experiential, exposure. It has to come through watching and being observant, and it has to come from an attitude. But I think it's extremely important that you invest in developing your soft skills also. How do you do it? Of course, you can attend courses, you can, share experiences with people. There are different things that you can do. The third thing that I would strongly recommend you do is to develop your reading skills. Now, I know it's a challenge for me after so many years to talk to a bunch of students who probably look at reading with a little bit of disdain. And I'm not talking about how you read, whether you read on a Kindle or whether you read on the phone or whether you read physical books like I do. But the fact is, you have to expand your mind, and that mind will expand primarily by reading. 2, 3 things will happen. One, you will be able to have meaningful involvement and conversations. You will improve your net worth. Sorry, what am I saying? Not network. And more importantly, is that you will be able to communicate and express yourselves. By watching and reading what people are doing, you will be able to learn yourself. And I think that's very important. Now, it is always a time when you also have to reskill yourself. Sometimes you think you're skilled and you can reskill yourself. Now, for example, the way fintechs in India are working, there are job opportunities there. There are if you look at LinkedIn, and I'm sure many of you are on LinkedIn, you will see a lot of banks asking people to apply to their portals, and get people getting jobs. I read about banks hiring people. So the job market is slowly but surely coming back from the 2020 experience. Unfortunate, the last few months have again taken a downturn because we've had the second wave. Again, uncertainty. Again, issues regarding sustainability of certain businesses and all that. I would look at it as an opportunity for you all to invest, to learn. There will be jobs available. I don't think you need to worry. And you need to invest in yourself. You will get your jobs. There are different kinds of jobs available. The challenge and the exciting frontier that is being opened up is technology and all that goes with it. Like I said, whether it is analytics, data analytics. There are 2 phrases which a lot of people have, kind of quoted recently. One is that data is the new oil. Understand what that means. And the other thing, which I think was the other phrase which I like, was that you have to torture data to make it confess. Now, how do you torture data? Well, you torture data by being able to analyze data. And that's a skill that you have to develop with. And these are secondary skills while you get your MBAs from your colleges and all. I would strongly recommend you look at developing these secondary skills, certification courses, looking at specific programs that allow you to develop these skills, because this is what will make you different from the others when you look for a job. And equally, when you get the job, it will make you different from those people who have not gone through these skills, investment in developing their skills. So this is your opportunity. The next few months, develop your skills, develop your soft skills, your hard skills, everything. Jobs are available. You will see them. As Srini rightly said, a lot of them will be sales oriented, and it's not something negative. A lot depends on how you learn the product. It's good, like you said, you might get a geography, or you might get doctors in Kolaba or in Pune or somewhere to look at. But have you understood the product that you are selling? It's very important, and you have to invest in that. Nothing comes easy, nothing comes free. There are no escalators. It's always the staircase, and your career is starting now. You've got 30, 40 years ahead of you. And when you have these 30, 40 years ahead of you, you have to invest in this, and you have to build your knowledge. That knowledge is what is going to stand you in good stead over the next 5, 10, 15 years. And then that brings up another word which I wanted to kind of come towards the end of what I wanted to say, which is patience. You have to be patient with your own selves. Things are not going to happen overnight. You might join your family business. Some of you might start working somewhere. Some of you might have an entrepreneurial streak in you and you want to start doing your own stuff. Technology is another area where a lot of you might venture into, either with somebody or go and work somewhere. Invest in your knowledge. There is so much of knowledge out there, and there is so much to learn, and it's so dynamic. As we are talking, there are new things happening in the world, and that is what you have to invest in. Ultimately, when you look back, say 5, 10, 20, 30 years from now, how well you did in your life, whether it's you counted from collecting money, whether it is progress of work, whether it is going up a corporate ladder, whether it is starting your own business, whatever, you will realize that when you look back honestly, your success is yours. You built it, you invested in it. And this is what you need to recognize. It's very easy to say, Arey, pandemic tha, what to do, sir? We didn't get jobs. I got a bad job. This happened, that happened. All that is a given. Everybody is going to go through it. The whole world, leave alone India. You have to invest in yourself. There are jobs out there, different jobs. Not that 10 years ago, the jobs that were available might not be the same jobs. But you know what? They are better. They are more innovative. They are more intelligent. There is more applicability of the brain. You have to stretch yourself. I strongly believe the first 10, 15 years of your career, you have to invest in that. The next 10, 15, you learn and you earn. And then the last 10, 15, you should give back. You should give back to the same people where you were 30 years ago. And I think it's a huge opportunity for you. Don't look at it as a negative. There are jobs out there. Some of them will be traditional jobs. Some are new jobs. Seek them. Network yourself. Connect with people. Learn from watching people. Learn from very things. And that's how you're going to learn. So I'm happy to be answering any questions after these sessions are over. And all the very best, guys. The future is there. It's for you to kind of actualize it. Srini, back to you. I don't know if that kind of triggered some questions in people's minds or whatever, but I'm putting it back to you now.
Sure. And Satish, while we speak, there are one or two questions on mortgage I have answered. You may also want to add something to that
Sure.
question as well.
I'll have a look at it. Do you want me to kind of write the answers down?
Yeah, on the chat itself, because that's question pertinent to mortgage. Yeah. Okay. So guys, I think thank you, Satish, for giving this perspective. So from a banking and financial services perspective, banking and NBFC perspective, NBFC would mean Shriram Transport, Cholamandalam, Aditya Birla, Piramal, India Bulls, HDFC, etc. are NBFCs, just to give you an example. Banks would be ICICI Bank to IndusInd to Kotak to HDFC Bank to so on and so forth. Yeah. But for a job market perspective, both are similar. Yeah. I think we talked about 4 clusters of jobs, right? The first cluster of job is sales and customer acquisition, be it wholesale or retail. The second cluster we talked about analysis, financial analysis, credit appraisal, so on and so forth. The third set that we talked about is analytics / technology, ERP, CRM, that bucket. The fourth bucket that Satish talked about is the fintech part of it. Now, I'll just, as an example, before we move to equity research, I just wanted to give an example. There's one company with which, I'm personally associated and I'm on the board of the company as well. It's a fintech company, and it's an interesting problem for some of you who are aspiring to get into the financial services area. Now, the company is in the business of lending money to urban poor people, defined as not poor people, urban lower middle class people. That is people who earn less than 25,000 who don't have a fixed job. So which means money being lent to Ola cab walas, money being lent to Swiggy drivers, money being lent to peons in the colleges, so on and so forth, who are in urban India. Okay. And when they analyze the whole market, right, they realize that it has to be a technology play. It took them about a couple of years to actually develop an algorithm by talking to thousands of customers and looking at millions of case studies of different companies, etc., to come with an algorithm wherein basis a few documents and a 15-minute, 20-minute conversation that they have with a potential borrower, all telephonically or on an equivalent of a video call, etc. The system throws a few questions and the system throws a few ideas for a credit appraisal. Right? Now, sounds very funky and sounds very interesting in that sense. One of the fear that the customers had was that we don't understand the complicated rate of interest. And we are small people and we are very worried about the rate of interest because all the land, the loan sharks or lalajis in the cities that you have charge 48%, 60%. We don't even understand. So rate of interest, we don't understand. Now the company, after a lot of debate, discussion, came with one of the innovations, one of its own kind, where they basically said zero interest. We'll give you 5,000 loan whenever you want, subject to appraisal. Okay. You have to return that in 1 month. Don't have to pay interest. Pay us any service tip if you want. If you like the service, pay us some tip. Now, it's a big punt taken by the company based on customer surveys and understanding customer pulse, appraisal records, etc. You'll be surprised that 85% of the customers actually pay tip of 100 rupees, 150 rupees, and return the money in 1 month. Because one of the things the customer keeps thinking is, I need this kind of money every alternate month probably, because I'm earning low 15,000, 20,000. I will need this kind of money. Now, if I don't pay a tip, maybe the company will not give me loan next time. So I better pay up the loan and also give some tip, right? The point I'm trying to say is that in this market where there is interest rate, there is a method of working. Here is a company which has come with a great product to talk about. As I talk to you, the company is valued at $100 million and probably about 150 crore loans that they give every month, and they collect that in 30 days. Now, during COVID time, they did have some NPAs, etc., but the margins were large. But the whole idea is when you come to fintech, fundamentals don't change. It is customer acquisition, it is usage of technology, it is appraisal, which means credit worthiness of the customer, financial analysis of the customer, and collection. These are the four fundamentals of any lending business. That doesn't change in a fintech. But the only thing is the scale would be different. The ideas and the innovation that you need to be doing is different, to say so. Now, one of the big challenges in that company, and Satish, you would find it interesting that there are a lot of youngsters who get these innovative ideas, who are ready to slog, work in startups. They really do well. But we are finding it very difficult to find people who have a deep understanding of lending business. So here are a set of intelligent IITians who are joining us, but with limited understanding of lending. So in the last few months, we have made sure that in that company, we have taken a lot of people, MBA finances, who have got 2-3 years of experience working in some NBFC or banking. So all I'm trying to say is that in the beginning of the career, you may not land up in a fintech, but you do have an opportunity to get into a fintech or upgrade into a fintech after a few years of experience. As they say, A to Z alphabets have not changed from the time English language has been invented. Some fundamentals are important, and that's what Satish was emphasizing. As an MBA program, do that. Probably, do a certification program. Maybe I'll request Meenu to send one article which we saw in Times of India, which basically, talks about how to pick up a certification, because there's so much of confusion. If you Google something, and Google certification in NBFC or certification in credit underwriting, trust me, there'll be 1000 plus programs. Who knows what is the program, which is industry recognized, which is written by a professional, or is it written by a naive person? So I think look at those, look at that article and figure out how do you want to do that. Make sure you do that. Now, what I'm also, okay, Akash, you almost stole my point, but that's the point of saying that. Look at this article and pick up those certifications. What I strongly advocate to each one of you is 2 things do during this summers. And again, I'll be blunt. For last mentoring 15,000 students, I can tell you with a lot of confidence that 95% of you, and recently we have done some summers, we have done some surveys. 600 odd MBA students have participated in that. 95% of the students do not do the summers that is relevant to them. They want to do in banking, they'll end up selling, let's say demat accounts. They want to do in equity research, they'll end up doing something else. Nothing wrong in that. My strong advice to all the students is, whatever official summers that you got from your college, do that. No option on that. Do that. You'll learn something. But at the same time, on your own, at your own initiative, start doing the second summers yourself. Which means if you're spending 6 hours on the first summers, which is official summers, another 4 hours, 3 hours you take every day, do second summers. So that when you go to a recruiter tomorrow if Satish comes for hiring or I come for hiring, if you tell us, ki boss, I've done 2 summers. One was in sales. I was not too keen, but these were the learnings. And this is what I did in banking. You are giving me a message that you're genuinely interested to slog, to actually get into the area of your interest. So I think that's where I'll sum up the banking and NBFC, and we'll answer your questions, long and short questions. Then I move to the next section, which is about brokerage firms, if I can say so. I'll take 2 minutes and then pass it on to Sejraj to share his journey and maybe give a lot of anecdotes and examples that we have. In my view, this is most spoken about in B schools and least understood, and therefore very important for each one of you to understand the roles in this. Now, here when we talk about equity firms, brokerage firms, investing firms, etc., etc., the kind of roles that MBA finance students are likely to get over here are again two types. One is a research side, where you essentially understand the depth of the sector, depth of the company, competition, try doing a financial modeling, ask questions with the management and come with your reports to basically give your perspective about the market and your perspective about different stocks and specific stocks to talk about, which basically is a tool used by your sales team to go and pitch for investments into that company, to say so. The second would be more of sales roles, which is again a very technical in nature, because being in a broking firm, you do not sell any products. The products that you sell are technical in nature, equities and other things that you talk about. So when you talk to a customer, you can't talk general things. You have to be very specific, because customer is going to ask you, why do you think this company would grow better? Isn't the competitor X better than Y? Okay. Or he will ask you a question saying that, what is the book multiple of this company? Okay. Have you done DCF for this company? Right? These are the questions institutions will ask you when you are even selling a concept to them. Therefore, your depth of finance has to be extremely, extremely high. It's a very high pressure, exciting job, if I can say so. Right? And in my own experience of being in this world of finance for so many years, I can tell you that no two analysts would have a same answer for the same question. The simple reason behind that is it's a perspective they are presenting, and therefore it will require a large worldly wisdom, not just mathematical skills to be a good equity analyst. With this, I will invite Sejraj at this point of time to share his perspective, his journey, and his advice to the students. Over to you, Sejraj.
Thanks, Amy. Hi, guys, to everyone. Hope everyone is safe. So, to begin with, give you my idea. Let me see. I think it correlates a lot with current situation, how I started my journey. So I graduated somewhere around in times of 2001, 2002. So many of you, I think, would have born or have been in school that time. So basically, during that time, there was a dot-com bubble that had recently busted.
Sejraj, now you are making us feel complex. I'm a 98 pass out.
Yeah, so I'm sure you would realize how much painful it was post that dot-com bubble burst, and you just graduated, and you go anywhere, there are 10 people standing in line of you, and getting job is very, very difficult. So I know compared to current pandemic, you can't go also, but it's something similar, that way, that it was just not possible to get a job or something. Luckily, it was just my graduation as such. So that way I was saved. So I still, searched for a job for 1 year. I couldn't land it up, and side by side I was preparing for my MBA. So in a way, it prepared me, okay, what I need to do, because when I went for all the job interviews, and somehow previously I had come across this equity research and stock market. So I had pretty much made up my mind, okay, that is where I want to be. That is where I want to make my career in. I probably didn't know too much about it, but yeah, was very fascinated about it, and sounded very sexy what these analysts used to do and everything. So I said, okay, this is something what I would like to do. And that's how 1 year into job search and meeting up all these guys. I mean, a lot of people didn't entertain me. Few of people did entertain me, and that's where some education began. They would typically ask me, what is equity research? And I would be like, yeah, I know the analysis. And he'll like, tell me how do you start it? And I would be like, okay, I don't know. So he says, why don't you learn first that, then come back to me? Because I already have 10 people out there who are, MBAs out there. Probably they know, but you don't know. And the beauty was that most likely even they didn't know. Such a time I remember hardly anybody know anything. And that's how I started my journey. So that's when I got into MBA also, and when I speaking to a lot of faculties didn't know about it. So that was hard part of life again, that very few were actually aware about it, what actually goes about it. So that's where you have to start your own journey. It came into the play. So luckily, summer internship I landed on my own. That's how it began, and for that I physically had gone to at least 50 offices of all these brokerage, 50 or 45 something odd. So I still remember how I made the list. So basically, every morning I used to switch on the TV on CNBC TV 18, and they used to invite these guest panels from various brokerage firms or the mutual funds or research houses. And from 9 to 12, I used to make sure watch it, make a list of people who are coming. So either their name or the firm's name at least. So I know okay, this is the firm I can target them. And then those days internet was still very new. I didn't have the internet connection. So the only option to search the number and address was there used to be a telephone directory. So I mean, imagine those telephone directory used to get a four telephone directory. Each used to be, I think, 1,000 odd pages as such, just for Bombay region. And so I used to physically go by name and search it, and then call up the numbers. Some of the numbers would have changed. Some of the numbers nobody would reply or say, "Don't bother me." You try to get the address, and then you go there, visit there, give them a CV, and most likely on the phone only they would say, "Why don't you mail it to me, or why don't you courier it to me?" It's okay, but then I would still go there and give it to them physically. Somebody, very few entertained me. Most of the people say, okay, just drop it at reception. But some few who managed to meet me, and I tried to give them some intro about myself, and then they would start questioning me all the tough questions. And that's where how I started building, okay, this is what they want from me to learn, so that is what I should be prepared. And that's how it became. And slowly, so of the 45 50 I visited, one happened to be lucky for me. So one guy analyst was leaving, and they had not hired a replacement. And so they wanted somebody who could hold the fort, at least for time being, for 2 months. Of course, the analyst job is very difficult. So they wanted just whatever clerical work you can do of analyst. Okay, by the way, clerical term, I'll come to them. It's very difficult part. If you can hold the fort for 2 months, we are well and happy. And I was like, why not? Sure. He said, good, aa jao. And that's how I got it. And that's where 2 months everything happened, and it was very what do we say, I mean, of course, the mentally it's very straining, because the first time you start to learn about is like, you have to pick up a company, start reading about anything and everything. So I come from a management background, I don't have any science background. And they tell me, okay, why don't you look at this company called BHEL, Bharat Heavy Electronic, Heavy Electricals Limited, and it's into power, and they make BTG, and I have no clue how the power is made. I mean, we all learned in school it's made from water, but what equipments go and how they do it and everything I can learn about it. So they're like, why don't you learn the process? Go to the YouTubes and the Wikipedias of the world and try to find out, and where is this product? What do they manufacture? That's how the equity research work started for me. That's how I was supposed to do it. And so the only the beautiful part about doing all those hard work was that at the end of a 2 month, I had one research report with me. So post my summer, when I did my second year, and when I went for an interview for the other firms, or when I applied for a job, along with the CV, I used to present my research report. Sir, this is my summer, and that's where the eyes would light up. They would know, okay, this guy has done some work. He knows what equity research, some part is not fully. That's okay, because half of the people, or more than 90% of the people, they still don't know what actually happens in equity research. Okay, so practically speaking, you have to make a research report. You have to write it out. It used to have. It should carry your name on it. So that's how you would be evaluated. That's the main thing. And most of us think it's just going to be Excel. That's going to be there. But apart from that, there would be a Word doc wherein you would write your report and everything. Excel, that obviously is the key thing. I mean, for on the job front, actually, for first I think 9 months or 12 months, 95% of my time used to be spent on Excel. So just entering the 10 years numbers, reading all the annual reports possible of the company. I mean, minimum 10 years is the minimum that we had to read it. If you go back more, that's a more advantage you have, because that's how you try to predict what somebody does, because there is a saying that humans are creature of habit. So that's why they say you read the history. That's why probably you'll get what company is planning to do, or how they will behave when things, how environment changes. So that's how it is. And so that's how slowly I picked it up from my summer. It went to, that's how I got my final job. And that's how it is. In terms of equity research analysts, so brokerage houses are definitely the one guys who hire it. Apart from that, there are people who manage money. So we have mutual funds, we have PMS, alternate investment fund, there are insurance companies. So mind you, the money you pay for your insurance premium, up to a certain portion of that money is invested in stock market. So they also need some analyst to evaluate it. Then we have a sovereign fund. So I don't know if you know, there is something, Singapore, country like Singapore, some country like Saudi Arabia, they're cash rich and they have a fund, they invest. So they have their own investment team, family offices. So all the rich people, top 100, 200 people of India, they have their own family offices which manages their wealth. So again, they need the analyst. Apart from that, we have magazines in newspapers, TV channels, website who require it. So terms of job opportunity, equity research, there are a lot of opportunities, hiring options available. Key thing for you guys, I think just remember that you have to need to read a lot. Okay, so ideal way is to start reading up right now. You pick up one company, and it has to be a very small company. Okay, mind you, don't go and pick up Reliance or something like that big Hindustani Unilever, which is very big company. Okay, pick up a small company, probably which is one single product company or maybe couple of products company. And that's how you start reading about it, the company, the annual report. You punch in the financial numbers of Excel for last 10 years. I think Srini or we can share some format also how we look at P&L. It's very different from typically it's there out there in annual report and how it is taught in the B school.
Sure.
That's how it is basically begins, and you start putting it out. Now we have that option. We have a LinkedIn, you have a Facebook. You can start a blog. You just put it up whatever you have, and you mail it to the people. I mean, I've already received some 5 invite on LinkedIn who wants to connect with me, right? So whenever you send a connect, send that thing, sir. I've done analysis on this company. This is my work. See, why don't you? So it becomes a kind of a project work actually, where he can judge you on what you want. So that's where how it will become. You need to have something of a concrete out there for somebody else to judge. Just based on CV would be slightly challenging. So that's how I would like to hand it. Anything else, Srini, you want me to cover?
Yeah, thanks. I'll just summarize and also probably put in some things that they can do in these 2 months and next 6 months to develop this. And meanwhile, there's a question, Sejraj, on equity research and investment banking. You may want to answer that question. So, guys, when we say equity research, I think there are 2 types of roles which Sejraj has covered. One is the sell side and buy side. Does not mean sell side people sell the stock and buy side people buy the stock. No. Sell side basically means you're part of the broking firm. So which means we are talking about companies like large companies like UBS, Goldman Sachs on one side, Indian companies like MK Global or, GEPL or Motilal Oswal, Anand Rathi Securities, Angel Broking, so on and so forth. So basically in a broking house, apart from the people who actually do the trading and stuff, you have got a research team. Research team comprises some of them have 5 people, some of them have 50 people. Basically, people are divided into sectors and they go deep into the sectors. So the job role over there is you analyze a sector. Who are the players? What is the competition? What are the key financials? How is it dependent on the macro environment? What is the import substitution? Complete study. Then look at certain companies within that. To study basically saying what is the cash flows of the company, P&L, balance sheet, management of the company, how agile the company is, what are the risks of the company, SWOT analysis and all of that stuff, and do your financial modeling to arrive at certain recommendations. So here my strong advice to all of you is that majority of the research analyst or equity analyst jobs are in the brokerage firms. Yeah. There are some minority of that in others. I'll talk about it, but I think majority in the broking firms to talk about. While there are 1250 brokers who are registered with SEBI, NBFC, NSE, I would say top 30, 40 of them are large scale corporates. There's a beautiful change which is happening in this. Earlier, most of these broking firms used to be traditional companies. Okay, there is very popular Chaganlal and Sons. There is, Chintamani and Sons. These are all traditional companies which have been in existence. Last few years, there are very interesting broking firms like Zerodha, etc., which have come into the markets, which is like a fintech, but technology broking firms, if I can say so. Yeah. India Bulls has pioneered that in the past 15 years back, but some of these companies have started coming in. So a combination of modern age companies, olden age companies in the broking firms. But the skill set that you require is humongous amount of understanding of business models, financial modeling, understanding धंधे में पैसा कहाँ से आता है, so on and so forth, right? I think that's the skill that one needs to develop, and that comes purely from reading of annual reports, reading of the company's websites, reading of the investor presentations of the company, so on and so forth. So I think the whole idea of doing all of these things is you are almost trying to understand and advise the world by slicing and dicing about the company. Yeah, that's on the broking firms. As Sejraj has rightly said, whoever has money, okay, When I say whoever has, obviously each one of us on this call also have money, but point is large houses. Could be the family offices, which means, Mr. Birla also must be having his personal money. Mr. Piramal also has his personal money. Mr. Anand Mahindra has his personal money. They also invest somewhere. So they also form a team of people, of bright young MBAs, and they recruit them to talk about. Premji Azimji's dividends probably runs into a few hundreds of crores. He also has a family office of 12, 13 MBAs who keep on advising him where to invest, etc. Mutual funds take money from you. They also have analysts to figure out where to invest that money. Insurance companies do that, right? In certain countries, the pension funds do that, right? In certain companies, the sovereign funds, which means like Singapore government he talked about, Malaysia government have something called Khazana, okay, and they own a lot of Indian companies as well. So the whole idea is this skill set is basically slicing, dicing, understanding the business model, competition, predicting a little bit what's going to happen, modeling around it, and taking a call whether you want to sell, buy, keep, what you want to do around it. Yeah. Some people make career 25 years in this, 30 years in this, retire from there. Some people shift at some point of time from a broking firm, sell side to a buy side, and vice versa. But very important messaging, get your certification so that your methodology, you know what you're doing. Make sure that you read a lot. You need to know how to read annual reports, like a storybook, and make a story out of it. You need to know financial modeling, basics of financial modeling. You need to understand the sector very, very deeply. Yeah. And this is 15% of the jobs approximately come into this. Of late, last 4 or 5 years, I'm seeing a trend. Some of the foreign broking companies, which are based in US, etc., have started a KPO or a knowledge process outsourcing in India, where they do take MBAs. You do the work in the back office, which means you don't interact with customers and fund houses, but you do the modeling, etc., in the back office. JP Morgan and some of these companies hire quite a few of MBAs. So these are some opportunities that you have in the broking firm, to say so. I know there are some questions which are getting answered, but we'll keep doing that. Yeah. And one more important skill in this is networking skill. Today we are 4 of us on the call. All of us have LinkedIn account. It should be a natural instinct for you to figure out how can I add, how can I communicate with these people. With this social media coming in, the distances, as they say, geography is history. Hierarchy is a history now. You can reach out to any industrialist, any businessman, anybody today, unlike the past days. So please do leverage those skills, if I can say so. Yeah. I now move to the next sector segment and keep pouring your questions. Dozens of questions are coming up here and YouTube, but let's keep continuing. I now will invite Shalat. Shalat, you may have to show your. Shalat, are you there?
Yes, pretty much I'm here.
Yeah. Hi.
Good morning.
Yeah. Okay.
Evening.
Good evening. Good evening. So let me just introduce Shalat, which I've already introduced to you, and hand it over to him. Shalat is an IIM Lucknow pass out and worked in Larsen Toubro, and works currently in Piramal Enterprises. He has mainly worked in the areas of corporate finance, to say so, which is typically merger acquisition and business development. I think that's the main forte that he has worked in. So Sejraj worked in an equity research firm and has been working for 15 years now and is a vice president in one of the large equity research firm. So he would work from the broking house perspective. Shalat would work from a company's perspective. So probably a few hundreds of valuations that Shalat would have done in his corporate finance world, to say so. So within corporate finance, and here I'll be very honest, probably 2-3% of the jobs actually are in corporate finance. This is, as I mentioned, that institute number 21 to 400 through say so. 21 is not 21. What I meant to say is that most of the participants, except the top 20 institutes, you will find that corporate finance jobs are very few. But whatever comes in are mainly in the areas of MIS, financial planning, merger acquisition, so on and so forth. So with this, I want to hand over to Shalat to share his experience of corporate finance. Tell students that, if they want to really learn modeling and want to do, merger acquisition or want to get into equity research, what are some skills that they need to develop and so on and so forth. As I mentioned, for last few years, Shalat has been training students on how to do valuations for listed as well as unlisted companies. And, it has been an interesting journey for him as well. Yeah, over to you, Shalat.
Okay. Thanks, Srini. Hi. Good evening, everyone. As Srini said, of course, this is an area which is sort of less traveled for finance professionals. However, I think the scope since the time that I joined and I pursued my career throughout in corporate finance, the roles have just increased, and not just in the area of financial planning, financial control, M&A, but a lot of business analysis, business intelligence, and management roles that have just been on offer. Because I think companies have also realized over a period of time that uh, everything cannot be on an outsourcing basis. Because back in the day when I joined, we would we would pretty much outsource all our diligence work to big fours, to the KPMGs and Deloittes of the world, and for every analysis have a consultant sort of appointed. But I think from that side to now, and the change has pretty much happened in the past 5 to 7 years, there's a lot more reliance on in-house teams, uh, and uh, and the idea around having the expertise internally has just grown. uh, Pretty much, I think Sage spoke to you about a story when he joined, and there was this dot-com bubble. Let me tell you another story. I think I joined corporate world in 2007, and 2008 was the entire financial crisis. And there was just jobs which were taken away from people left, right, and center. And as so right now, the COVID crisis we are going through is still first a humanitarian crisis, and then it's a business crisis. But 2000 days was entirely business crisis. So how do you really look at your profile and all the people coming into the job world at that point of time? But if I reflect back, I think while scary times, even then, I would say worse than today. Because today, other than a few industries like hospitality, retail, travel, and much more of consumer travel, and not so much of let's say business travel has been or logistics has been affected right now. At that point of time, everything
Shalat, I think we can't hear you.
I think he's frozen.
Yeah. Can somebody call Shalat offline and
Ask him to rejoin.
Rejoin.
Ask him to leave and come back.
yeah. So meanwhile, let me cover certain aspect of what he's referring to. I'll leave this part of corporate finance for him to rejoin and start off. I just wanted to cover a few things towards the end. Maybe I'll just cover that. Okay. In my view, all of you are in first year, and very important. I do understand there is job scarcity. There is, COVID is likely to. These are all temporary phenomena. You have got 40 years of career ahead of you. My own suggestion to all of you is follow a few things. First, I think 20 by 200 is one golden rule that you need to follow. What do I mean by 20 by 200? Yeah, once Shalat joins, please let me know so that I will shift to the other slide. Yeah, Shalat
He's come.
Yeah. Go ahead, Shalat. 1 second, I've moved the slide.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah. Go ahead, please.
Sorry. I think the Wi-Fi just conked off, so I just moved to another hotspot. Okay, so I think so I was trying to explain about the 2008 financial crisis and how everybody of us who were in the finance industry, and we just sort of kept going at it. I think the current crisis, I personally believe it's a lot better, because while we are not able to go to office, and companies are not able to carry on normal operations in terms of their office and field staff, but the business is going on pretty well. I think barring March and April of last year, this time around everybody knows that there's absolutely no issue with respect to business, and the demand side is still there. So I don't think, I mean, I see a lot of questions around around the. I mean, you guys are concerned about whether how this crisis is going to affect. I think please don't worry about it. Please keep on doing your bit. In terms of my journey, I think I as a person was very keen that I want to make my career in corporate, because the kind of learning that I always wanted to have, I didn't think that I would get it in any other form, because just the actual decision making is at the company side. I mean, the kind of, if you want to do M&As, if you want to do corporate actions, the decision making is at the company's end, and that's why I wanted to also be a part of it. And therefore, the challenge for me every day was to learn much more about business, much more about what kind of products and services that my company is into, and therefore how do you bring that financial angle, how do you look at. So one of my earliest deals was divestment of ready mix concrete business of L&T, of a 1,500 crore deal. So the challenge was, how do you look at that business, make sure that it is valued well, and why it would be attractive for somebody else to acquire it. And therefore you do you do financial carve out, you do all kind of things around it. I mean, my deals have always had been, I mean, valuation and everything has just been a part of one part of the entire thing, but entirely understanding business. I mean, I've dealt with lawyers, I've dealt with a lot of other business consultants and so on. uh, so your work, if you want to work in a corporate, will have to be extremely tailored to what business that your company is into, and whether you have that kind of an understanding of what are the key drivers and operational parameters for that business, and that's the kind of knowledge that you will have to bring into that company. So essentially, if you're looking for a job in a corporate finance role, one would be an overall business understanding, and how does a balance sheet affect a balance sheet and profit and loss. So I mean, in a business context, do you look at EBITDA margins or do you look at net profit margins? What's the difference between the two? In a valuation setting, what difference does it make to a valuation when there is an increase in revenue versus an increase in margins? Let's say what is meant by WACC and cost of capital, and how does that affect any valuation decision? In terms of financial planning, you'll have to see what kind of, let's say, credit cycles does this particular business have versus all the other businesses in the world, and a very detailed understanding of the business that the company is into, and what are the drivers. So how a pharma company is different from an NBFC company. So that is the kind of a skill set that you will have to develop. uh, of course, when you join, you will have much more opportunity to see a business closely, whichever company you are in. Before that, what you should definitely do is try and understand how businesses work, and maybe whether it's through a course or whether it's through, let's say, please go out and do a lot of internships and small, let's say, projects which are really near the decision making, that how do you see a business growing and what kind of financial parameters can you look at. So yeah, I mean, if you're keen on this line, at least I believe that it's a great line for future. While today, of course, as Srini said, that the number of the overall percentage of jobs might be low, but if you're really passionate about joining company and making a difference, and today, again, I would say that tons of startups out there which tremendously value the kind of financial expertise or business analysis expertise that could be brought on table, and willing to take all of you. So yeah, I mean, I think those are the 2 cents from my side. Happy to answer any questions in this regard.
Great. Thank you, Shalat. I think, as I said, corporate finance, the jobs are in minority, but I think point what is coming across from all the three themes that we spoke about: NBFC banking, equity research, corporate finance. I think your ability to understand business fundamentals, what drives a business, ability to understand annual report stories of the companies, to say so, understanding about the sectors, I think these are very important 3 vital aspects that are coming across as common to say so. So it's not just about your modeling skill or an Excel skill, which is an important aspect, but not the only aspect to talk about. Yeah. While we are answering some questions over there, I will now go to the last slide. I think 4 things before we end up, I would like to sum up 4 things I would like to sum up. First thing I would like to sum up is 20 by 200. Keep it as thumb rule for next 40 years of your corporate life. You chose to do an MBA, you chose to do a corporate career. So keeping that in perspective, 200 days a year, read 20 pages at least, right? I think that should be a way of life. I'll give you a few examples. When I passed out in 98, actually there was no instrument called derivatives. Derivatives was banned at that time, right? And it was not there. So I've never studied derivatives. Today, Sejraj will vouch for it. Derivatives market is larger than the equities market. If I'm continuing in the market and if I'm not well read, there is no way I will understand this. Fintechs have emerged in India in last 10 years, 12 years to say so. Things have changed. Satish and I worked on a project and we kept discussing that when Satish was in the peak of mortgage business, affordable housing was not the hype at that point of time. Today, affordable housing is a new segment. Now, at this age and stage, each one of us also learn and unlearn, and that comes from reading. So 20 by 200, I think, is a must-have kind of stuff. The second part, a strong advice to all 150 of you who are on the call. If you have summers and you want to do something else. For example, if your summers is about selling a demat or selling a portfolio management service, you learn something out of it, no doubt on that, correct? But you really want to do a equity research analysis or something on NBFC or something on credit bureau, etc. Please do your second summers or dual summers. We will be happy to guide you, but otherwise also there will be enough and more companies which will kind of help you. So try doing your dual summers without exception if you have an iota of doubt on your learning in projects. Yeah. Third point, sales and retail is not what you think it is. Okay. Sales does not mean selling a credit card in front of a petrol pump or going to the shoppers in a shopping mall. Sales is an evolved process where you're trying to convince your customer based on data, based on product features, based on the life cycle of the customer, especially in the financial services world. All of us do selling, and it's a good starting point for you to understand where to go, where not to go. Yeah. The last but not the least is I would strongly advocate do some industry related summers. Okay. Industry related certificates. We sent you an article which talks about how to look at certification, but I think high level, who is offering that? Whom do you get an opportunity to interact with? Is it an industry practitioner who is doing? Is it, some theoretician putting things together or not, right? And are there any small projects and case studies which are attached with that certification or not? Not theoretical case studies. So I think 4 or 5 parameters that you need to look. Trust me, summers is the only time when you can really do lot many things, because third semester starts off or fourth trimester starts off. You have placements, you have case study competition, you have sports day, you would have annual day, you would have a placement week starting, you would have 13 subjects to complete, each of the subjects having 39 hours. I think it's not an easy go that we talk about. Yeah. So therefore, I would strongly advocate this 2 months or 8 weeks slog for 10, 12 hours. And I think life is much simpler for many of you to say so. Yeah. With this, we come to an end of, today's session. If any one of you have any questions, please unmute yourself and please ask that question or put it on the chat window. Yeah. And before we leave, Divesh, please send the feedback form. There's a small feedback form which will take you less than 30 seconds to fill in. Please make sure that you fill in, because yesterday we had about 250 odd students. Today we have about 150 odd students, and evening we have another session. So if there is any feedback that comes from you, we'll be very happy to, incorporate that. Divesh, can you send that feedback form on the chat window, please?
Yes, sir. Sure.
Yeah, do that. Yeah. All right. So if any one of you have any last questions for me, Satish, Sejraj, or Shalat, feel free to unmute yourself and speak. We tried answering as many questions, I think almost all questions, barring Harshal's question, which we will answer in a moment from now. Yeah. Shalat, you may want to just answer the last question on corporate finance, but otherwise, if you have got any other questions, feel free to ask us those questions.
Sure.
Introduce yourself and please ask us that question. Okay, I think 15, 16. I think 15, 16 questions are coming, and these are the pretty much the questions. We will share our email IDs. Yeah, Ashutosh, go ahead, please. You had a question. Please unmute yourself. Devesh, allow people to unmute. Ashutosh, over to you.
Hello, sir.
Yeah, hi, Ashutosh. Go ahead.
Hello, sir. This is Ashutosh from I am Sirmur, and sir, I wanted to ask a very simple question. Like, I'm trying to get opportunities in finance, and I'm like searching for it on LinkedIn and Internshala for past 15 days, but I'm unable to find a opportunity. Like, there are very less opportunities, and I'm not getting to find like you.
So all I
At this
can,
point of-
I would only advocate one thing. I don't think you're doing a good search, because as recent as day before, not day before, 3 days back, we had put in some 6, 7 positions in LinkedIn. A couple of them are related to finance as well, including equity research. But I mean, the timeline for that is over. So I'm just saying, be a little more focused in searching. That's one. Very soon, probably in another week or 10 days time to say so, we would also be launching some of the second summer projects, if I can say so. That means you're already doing a summer project. The second summer project we'll try to launch. If you find any one of it as relevant, please feel free to apply for that as well. Yeah.
Sir, like I got opportunities, I have filled the forms as well, but there is no positive response from the
I
other
mean,
side.
that nobody can help you, boss. That nobody can help you. Please have a relook of how you are applying. Maybe you are not even, defending your candidature properly in that, correct? Because remember one thing, there must be 500 emails any officer must be getting on a daily basis, correct? So therefore, I think I would advise you to write in the email structure, probably I'm doing an MBA, I've done this project very crisply, so that in one glimpse, less than half minute, the person knows that you are a relevant person to talk about. Yeah. So I think you have to do that kind of stuff. Second, always remember, everything is not baked and ready-made in life. You don't wait for an Intershala or a YUGMA or a D2C to put positions. You figure out, like Sejraj has talked about, 50 companies. Okay. Start writing to them. Maybe one of the persons is going to say that, oh, it's an interesting thing. Many a times, I'm talking for myself and our organization, many a times, we do take 70, 80 summer interns. We have taken 70 this year, 46 last year. But after that, some of the students wrote to me saying, you know what, we have gone through your website and this is the project which we can do. Do you think it is relevant to you? Now, in fact, today morning at 11:30, I finished a call with them. We are taking 5 more interns. I didn't have those projects. We didn't create those projects. They gave us ideas. Okay, boss, these are the areas where probably you have not looked at. Can we look at it? Yeah, I think sometimes it's also important to be proactive. Yeah, Ashutosh.
Can I just add to that?
Yeah, Shalat, go ahead, please.
Okay, so look, all of you, please understand, and let me tell you a very practical thing. Look, a company or any employer hires you not for what they can do for you, but what you can do for them. Okay, so and I get a lot of such applications and reach outs and all of that, saying that the candidate wants to learn and it's a great place for learning and so on. Look, the primary objective here would be that what is it that you can do for the company. And if you focus on that one aspect in every reach out that you do in whatever form, I think that's where you will see the difference being made. If you tell me, let's say you reach out to me and you say that, oh, by the way, I can do a pharma company analysis better than anybody else, and therefore for you I can find out more acquisition targets than probably a lot of other people out there. That is your strength that you sort of bring out, and for which an employer would be interested in you. So therefore, please work on what are the kind of strengths that you can bring in, what as compared to other people in the market, or otherwise, please do every reach out. Don't do just a copy paste job. Please tailor it according to the company that you are trying to approach, what business or what kind of profiles or what kind of incremental value that you can bring to them. And if you were to highlight that in every reach out, I think that's where you will get far more of rewards and far more people would be interested in hiring you.
Absolutely. I was just, as we are talking, I was just opening an email. I won't name, obviously. One of the premium institutes, I would call it as premium institutes, person has sent me an application. I'm just telling you what not to do. Okay. Now, the person has just XYZ person from one of the leading B schools, probably top 20 B schools, because a lot of internships were getting cancelled. We offered internships to the students whose summer internships were revoked by companies. We said, that's not correct. And therefore, we also offered some of the interns to take them as interns into us. Now, there was a LinkedIn ad. Probably we got about 150 odd resumes in that. XYZ person has actually just said PFA attached and a resume has been sent. Okay. Now, just tell me, when I get 150 applications, and if somebody is writing PFA attached, only from the email ID, I knew that the person is from so-and-so institute. There's no way I'm going to open and look at the person and do that, because 150 emails, how will I open, right? So therefore, I think it's also important, how do you communicate? Look from the other person's perspective. Okay, if I'm getting 150, I'm sure Satish must be getting 200, Salat must be getting 100, whatever is that number. Okay, so the attention span is 30 seconds. So how do you position yourself, right? Now, because this topic came, I opened the resume. Otherwise, I would not have opened it. Yeah. So I think keep that in mind. Couple of you more have raised your hands. Who are they? Can you just unmute yourself? I saw 2 people raising their hands. Okay. I think their questions are answered. Please click on this link.
Hello, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah. One second, Sudeep.
Yeah.
Yeah, Sudeep, 1 second. Please click here meanwhile and fill in the feedback to say so. Later on also, if you have any questions, there is Divesh and Faisal's ID given to you. So, please do that. Yeah. Go ahead, Sudeep.
Hello, sir. Good evening. Thank you for the session. I am Sudeep from Goa Institute of Management.
Yeah.
So actually, I came across a role of project finance. Mm-hmm. So I wanted to learn more about it. I found it very interesting, but don't know in detail about that. So can you shed some light on that?
Okay. Have you done capital budgeting in your FM2?
Yeah, we have done.
Loosely, project finance, would require that skill set. So project finance very loosely has 2 elements in that. One element is establish what is the viability of the project. Okay. Which means looking at projections, building the constraints, IRR, NPV, and things like payback period and all of that stuff. There are 5 methods of capital budgeting. That's one part of it. Second part is building this case and going to financiers to, organize for, finances for these kind of products, which means what kind of finance, what tenor, what should be the, terms of the finance and so on and so forth. So broadly, a project finance team is team which organizes funding required for capital projects. So you are making you are in Goa. So let's say if there is a Goa government has privatized, let's say any of the Panjim Bridge. Okay. And let's say Larsen Toubro or HCC companies bidding for it. They need 5,000 crores. Okay. So the project finance team gets into that, creates the full viability of that. Okay. Computes all these ratios and all of that stuff, puts in all the assumptions into that, and then goes to an NBFC or a bank to borrow. So this function overall put together is project finance. Since it is summers, obviously the whole scope will not be given to you. Yeah. Whole scope will not be given to you, but certain aspect of that may be given to you. So which means they will ask you to do some customer survey to find out how many of them will take bridges, whatever that example is. Or they will ask you to study, instrument A versus instrument B. How does it look like? Yeah. Did I answer your question, Sudeep?
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Yeah. Sejraj has some idea, but Sejraj, I'll discuss with you offline. Let's work something similar is coming up very soon, so I'll talk on that with you. Yeah. Any other questions that we have? Anirudh Chavan has got, can you please two book recommendation related? Sejraj, I would advise you to tell them the book, because I can talk for myself. Amongst all of us, you would be the person who must be reading much more than each one of us.
And there are tons of books. I pretty much have it on my Gmail list, which I share it with everyone. On top of the mind, Intelligent Investor is one must read. Apart from that, I think Peter Lynch's both the book, One Up the Street and Beating the Street.
Yeah, maybe I'll just add one more book. It is fun. It is funny to say that, but I would strongly advocate, because the way we all study finance in an MBA first year or graduation, etc., is more from a number perspective than a implementation perspective. Romancing with Balance Sheet, there is a book by Anil Lamba. I think I find it very interesting from a practical understanding of that. Or Professor Prasanna Chandra, Finance for Non-Finance. That will really help you build it. So I think these 3-4 books is what we can suggest. All right. Yeah. In absence of any more questions, so thank you so much. We have shared the questions, the email IDs. Feel free to write there. Do connect with us on LinkedIn. Do click on this feedback form, and we'll be happy to answer as many questions more you have apart from this. Not only this, but the next 2 months during the summers, we will also be doing some sessions. Feel free to add that. And if you're stuck somewhere, more than happy to support you and try our best to help you out in that. Yeah. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And thank you so much, Satish, Sejraj, and Shalat, to make this time on Sunday afternoon in peak of election time, if I can say so. Yeah. So stay safe, guys. And all these projects are virtual projects. Please leverage as much as possible. Let these summers be gateway for your careers, to say so. Yeah. Thank you so much.